Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another weekend workshop. We're so grateful that you've joined us here today. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Carrie Ramsey, and I'm the project manager for the WeCan project, which is led by Queen's University and funded by FedDev Ontario through the Women Entrepreneurship Strategy Ecosystem Fund. And today, of course, we're here today to learn about how to do business with Queen's University. I think there are a lot of folks who are on this call from the Kingston region, but I know there are also some women-owned businesses who are joining us from beyond the region. So we're so grateful that you are here as well. We are going to have some time today for Q&A, so do stick around right to the very end if you can to get your questions answered. We have Nicole, Shelley, and Nikki from the Queen's procurement team who are here to answer questions and to lay out everything for you today. I'm so grateful that they've agreed to do this workshop for the WeCan community specifically. They do this workshop quite often in a more general sense, but today they've agreed to do this specifically for our community. We're so grateful for that because I think that there's some real opportunities for women-owned businesses across the region to do business with Queen's. So I am going to allow them to do the land acknowledgement today as a part of their presentation. Some of you know I usually do that at this point, but I would invite you in the Zoom chat right now. Let us know who you are and perhaps what your business is. It's a great opportunity to network, of course, as well. So let's take a moment to drop a note in there and let us know what the business is. You know, even if you want to say what area of the world you're connecting from. That's always interesting as well. So if you could go ahead and do that, I am going to hand over the virtual microphone in just a moment. I do want to make a point of welcoming our Asl Interpreter today, Q, who, if you would like to, you can pin to the top of your screen if you'd like, but she might be there already. And I hope that for anyone who might benefit from her services, I hope that you'll find that useful. We have also enabled the live transcription on this Zoom call so that if that would be helpful to you, please do click that you can enable that on your own screen. And then you can have a couple of ways of enjoying this presentation today. All right, so because Q is with us today and we need to give her a little break, we are going to make sure that we do that at 10:50 this morning. So we'll have a 10-minute break, which will be the perfect opportunity for you to grab a coffee, take some notes, and we'll resume that after about 10 minutes at that point, which would lead us to 11 a.m. All right, so just keep your eyes open for that. Thanks, everyone. And I'm going to pass the virtual microphone, I believe, over to Nicole, who's going to kick it off. Thank you so much for joining us.
Perfect. Thank you, Carrie. It's so great. We appreciate being invited to present to the group today. So we're very excited. So before we get started, I'm actually going to turn things over to Nikki Mundell to do the land acknowledgement for us. Nikki?
Thank you, Nicole. Good morning, everyone. To begin, I would like to acknowledge that I am situated on traditional Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee territory. As a white settler, I'm very grateful to be able to work on these lands, specifically co-hosting this virtual session with you all today, and live as an uninvited guest here as well. It's imperative that we all recognize the significance and the roots of Kingston, Ontario's Indigenous community, which includes Métis, as well as First Peoples from other nations. Their spiritualities and practices have vibrant and vital history, which continue to develop and enrich the lands that we live on today. I recognize that I play a role in truth and reconciliation, and I will do my part in contributing to that by listening to, learning from, and amplifying Indigenous experiences and voices whenever I can, and I would implore you to do the same. Thank you.
Thanks, Nikki. So as Carrie mentioned, we've actually given this presentation. We just started it this year in January. We've given 4 presentations to date to our supplier community, both current suppliers and potentially new suppliers. And so we're happy to be here today to present this to all of you. I'm just going to say that the presentation that we are doing today, the slide deck, is one that we do to the supplier group. So we're going to talk to different pieces of it. And so Carrie's gone over the next slide. Some of this, I'm just going to focus on the fact about the questions. So we encourage questions throughout the presentation. during the presentation, we find it easier if you ask them in the chat if possible. And between the three of us, we're going to monitor it. We do have a formal Q&A at the end for individuals to ask questions as well. But if you do have questions, sometimes it's just easier to ask it in the moment. So feel free to ask those. We might actually address them through the presentation too. So we do a little bit of both, but again, please don't feel like you have to hold it to the end. We will check out the chat as well and make sure that we're answering them as well. Okay. So our session today that we are presenting on is that we want to do business with you. And so Queen's University, we have thousands of suppliers that we do business with, and we always say that we buy soup to nuts, right? So we are not like a manufacturing plant where we have certain commodities that we buy. We buy everything and anything due to the very nature of the business at the university. And so we are trying to get out there because we do want to do business with a variety of companies, right? So but we need to make sure that we do it in a very open, fair, and transparent way to make sure that all qualified suppliers have a chance to provide goods and/or services to us. Our ultimate goal is to achieve the best overall value for Queens by doing business in a compliant, respectful way. And so essentially this session is open to current and potential small, medium, large size companies. We're just trying to provide you with some insight on how we procure at the university and how we can work with you. And so we're excited to present that to you today. I also want to say right up front, if there is at any time after this presentation that you have questions or you'd like to get some more information, please reach out to our team. We're going to leave you with some contact information. But we're here. Don't feel that this is the only time that you're going to have access to us. We are here to talk to you. So please feel free to contact us post this presentation to talk things through. As Carrie mentioned, there's three of us presenting today. We're like the trio that sticks together all the time. So the three of us present this quite a bit together. And so we'll just take we'll each introduce ourselves and give a little bit of background. So I am Nicole Fowler. I am currently the Associate Director of what we call Procurement Operations. So Nikki is a part of that team, which essentially is comprised of our procurement systems team, accounts payable. So the central accounts payable function for the university is also part of my team, along with business services and logistics, which is our shipping, couriers, a credit card program group. And also right now I am looking after the strategic sourcing team as we have a vacancy with the AD role there. And so Shelley is a part of that team and she'll introduce herself a bit more. I've been with the university now for over 18 years, specifically in procurement for almost 6. And so I'm going to be doing a lot of different pieces of this presentation, so you'll hear my voice. Unfortunately, you'll hear my voice quite a bit today. So I will be speaking quite a bit, but I'll be doing different parts of this presentation. So Nikki, over to you.
Thanks, Nicole. Hi, everyone. My name is Nikki Mundell. I am the manager of our procurement systems unit within the procurement department at Queen's. I'm doing a little bit of management with the AP team right now currently. I've been at Queen's for, I think it's 13 years now, the whole time in procurement. So have seen quite a bit of change in terms of how we procure goods and services at Queen's. I was around when when we were faxing POs, to give you a little bit of how long I've been with Queen's. Tidbit there. So I will be talking today about, I manage our procurement systems that we use at Queen's. So where departments, staff, faculty purchase their goods and services and pay for them. So I'll talk a little bit about the portal, the supplier portal that's connected to that system and what that looks like for our suppliers. And that's a little bit later in the presentation.
And Shelley?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming today. I'm Shelley Rizzo. I feel like I'm the newbie on the team here. I've only been with Queen's for about 3.5 years now, although it's been a very action-packed 3.5 years. My title right now is Procurement Specialist. So like Nicole was saying, I'm on the sourcing side of the team. So when you hear about things like tenders or request for proposals, that's a little bit about what I do. That being said, we also see all lower dollar purchases come through the system that Nikki is responsible for. So anything for services usually comes through me, no matter what the dollar value is. So we have a quick look at that to make sure everything is compliant before it goes out. But my main portfolios, I would say, in the high dollar realm are research, IT, and other types of services. So just a little bit further on what Nicole was saying, we're really looking for help from you today as well. So when we do this presentation, we'll be taking some notes. So if we're not looking at the screen, that's probably why. But just feel free to reach out, like Nicole was saying, tell us we're trying to extend our reach. And our problem is we're trying to find ways to get to reach out to different types of groups so that we put them on a bit of a better playing field in this public procurement environment. So if you have feedback on how we can reach out or how we can make things better, please just let us know.
Perfect. Thanks, Shelley, for mentioning that. And Carrie has been a great resource for us. So again, this is much about us presenting to you as your group educating us. So again, strongly encourage what Shelley has said. Reach out to us for questions or even just to give us feedback. So thanks, Shelley. Okay, so our agenda today is we'll go over what our team, because we're actually quite a good sized team and we do a variety of items. So it's kind of sometimes confusing at the university as to who does what. So we'll try and explain some of that. We're going to go over public procurement guidelines. So we are bound by some legislation and trade treaties that we'll just let the group know about. We are going to talk about social procurement, preferred supplier status. I am going to talk to payment terms. We're going to flip it over because Shelley and I are not good at giving this portion of the presentation, but supplier registration and portal is all Nikki, and she's fantastic at giving that part of this presentation. We're going to talk about some other options that are available, leave you with some information sources and contacts. And then, as I mentioned previously, we will have a formal Q&A at the end. Again, ask throughout though. Okay, so I'll get right into it. So our team is comprised of a variety of units. As you've already heard, we have our operations team and our strategic sourcing team, but we also are responsible for the university's postal and print services as well. So the physical mail that still comes into the university, the volumes have drastically reduced because of the pandemic, but there is still quite a bit of mail that flows both internally and coming from Canada Post. So that's a team that we look after. Just to mention strategic sourcing, we currently have 5 individuals that work in that unit. We have another procurement specialist. His name is Pat Fisher. Shelley and Pat both have a very a great amount of history in this area in public procurement and such. And so Pat focuses more on facilities buying and such, and where, as Shelley's mentioned, she looks after more research, IT, some of the big heavy hitters of the university that can be a little bit more complex. But we also have 3 buyers that work with our specialists as well. Christine Data is a buyer and procurement analyst, Ed Liu, another buyer, and Ryan Looney. And I'll just flip over to the operations side. So I mentioned that we have our procurement systems team. And Nikki, I just realized that we need to update our vacancy that we have listed here. But Nikki manages a team of 3 right now, and they look after our complete system. And we have a couple of systems that we use, but our primary system is what we call Acquire, which we'll talk a little bit more about. But Shannon DeLine and Allison Mantle are also a part of that unit as well. And Nikki, Anishka's last name escapes me at the moment. My apologies. I don't know if you want to pop on and just.
Yeah, it's Anishka Pereira.
Thank you very much. So thank you. So Anishka just joined us. I think she's about a week and a half into the job, but a great addition as she's our business analyst. As I mentioned, we look after the central function of AP for the university. There's a couple of pod groups out in some of the larger faculties or departments, but the core processing of AP is done. And currently, Nikki is actually helping out by managing that team as I'm we're all kind of doing a little bit of extra duties right now because of a few staffing shortages. So Nikki's helping me out by managing that team, but we have a team of 3 there. Diane Bijing, I'm going to mention a little bit later on when I talk about pay terms, but she's our accounts payable lead. And then we have 2 clerks, Felicia Hamilton and Jessica Palmer. And then lastly, but not least, is our business services and logistics team, which is sort of a catch-all of shipping, customs, credit card programs. So Stephanie Holcomb is our manager, and it's funny because she's been in this industry. She's been in the logistics industry for a number of years, and she says that she has a lot of colleagues that say, really, how much does the university ship? We ship a lot. We import a lot and we export just as much. So it's quite a busy role, but she's supported by Ruth Lappin, who primarily looks after credit cards. So as you can see, some of the larger universities that are bigger than Queen's have maybe a larger procurement team, but we've actually grown considerably in the last, well, I've been here 6 years, as I mentioned, we've grown quite a bit. So and through the pandemic, supply chain has probably ramped right up. So there's never a dull day and there's never a quiet day. So anyhow, it's all good, keeps us out of trouble. So we're going to jump right in to public procurement guidelines, and you get a break from me now because I'm going to turn this over to Shelley.
Okay, so this might not be the most exciting portion of the presentation today, but it is very important. When we talk about, Nicole was saying, we're going to talk about how we buy in public sector, Queen's being a public sector entity, spending public funds. But I think something that often blows people's minds is why. So the most important reason why we do what we do is because we're trying to add value to Queen's University. So we're trying to make people accountable for the spend because it isn't their own money. And part of that means going outside of doing what you always do, looking for new suppliers in the space, trying to make sure you are shopping around, to put it in easier terms, but making sure that you're doing everything you can to ensure that you're getting good value. Good value at Queen's doesn't always mean the cheapest price or the lowest price, but it means you've looked at the whole purchase. So the service that's included, quality, any warranties that are part of what you're buying, and also the price. I remember, so previous to Queen's, I worked for the city of Kingston for a long time, but a number of years in that space were in public procurement. And when I kept seeing the job being posted and it was called corporate buyer, and I was like, that sounds super cool. I'm going to buy stuff all day. I had no idea at the time how much legislation I was going to need to study. That was very surprising to me, but here I am today, an expert at it, or as close to being an expert at it as I can be. So along with value and providing that service to our Queen's community, we do what we do because we have to. There are a whole bunch of rules, regulations, laws in place that dictate how we spend public funds. So you will have heard of trade treaties before at the federal level. There's the Canadian Free Trade Agreement, the Canadian European Union Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement. So we refer to these as CETA and CFTA. Those are at the federal level, and those within those treaties, there are all kinds of guidelines, regulations, laws that we have to follow based on the amount of money we're spending. A lower level of that is the Provincial Broader Public Sector Procurement Directive. It came into place in approximately 2011, and it is kind of a subset of rules that follows the federal treaties. So we often look to the broader public sector first because it's often the most strict. So the rules around what we do based on the amount of money we're spending, we usually go there first. And Queen's has actually aligned our own procurement policies with the broader public sector directive when it is the most strict of the rules, or if we do have to go to the Canadian Free Trade Agreement or CETA, we go wherever the rule is the most strict, and that's how we've designed our policies and procedures. So So if you are on the supplier end of a quoting process and you're working with the department within Queens, and they're saying, oh, procurement's making me get 3 quotes for this because it happens to be $55,000. It's not just because we're trying to be sticklers. We want to make sure for $55,000, our clients at Queens are the buyers that are distributed around the campus. And we're trying to make sure they're being diligent and shopping around, but we also have to. Getting 3 quotes is dictated by the legislation that we need to follow. Next slide, Nicole. So these are the actual thresholds at the federal level, at the CFTA level. So Queens is actually aligned with the broader public sector. So our levels are a tiny bit lower. These were actually just refreshed, so it isn't really that much lower. But when you think about your own business, you may be thinking, well, I'm low dollar. Like I provide catering services, or I provide some other kind of service. I would never reach $100,000. Well, you might someday, so don't discount yourself from that space. But there are rules at all of the different threshold levels. Next slide. These are the ones that are kind of most important to us. So this is Queens. Again, we've aligned with the broader public sector Provincial Directive. So for purchases up to $10,000, which a lot of people will fall into that are listening on the call today, we basically say to our clients, our Queens buyers, do your homework, do your legwork, pretend you're at home. I wouldn't get someone to pave my driveway and not get multiple prices. We ask people to do the same thing here. Pretend it's coming out of your own pocket and do your due diligence. That being said, we do only require, we see everything come through our procurement system. We do only look for 1 quote at this level. Rarely would I think that someone spending this amount of money wouldn't shop around, but from a compliance standpoint, we're only looking for 1 quote attached. And then we look through that quote to make sure it's all set up properly. Between $10,000 and $50,000, we're looking for 2 quotes. So again, get as many as you want, but for backup on a requisition, that would be creating a purchase order in our system, we're looking for 2. You'll see the before taxes comment here. Everything, all of our thresholds they include all associated fees, which could include extended warranty, it could include shipping, it could include other types of fees and services, maybe for travel within, again, some guidelines. It's everything before taxes. We don't add the taxes on to that amount. Between $50,000 and $100,000, we're looking for 3 quotes. And over $100,000, anything that's estimated to be over $100,000. And maybe we think, well, I got 1 quote that was $97,000, but 2 of them, one is $120,000 and one is $130,000. The average of those quotes is more than $100,000. So those types of purchases are all facilitated through our office. So when Nicole was showing the org structure, any of the buyers or Pat or myself would be sitting in on that entire process, and we would facilitate and manage how it's done right through, here's what I want to buy, here are my specifications. Then we draft a request for proposal. We post it publicly like we're obligated to do per the trade treaties and the broader public sector legislation. We post it, a team evaluates it, we score it. We then enter into contract negotiations, and our team also facilitates drafting the contracts. We pull in some expertise when necessary, if it's something that needs extra insurance review or extra legal review or extra IT security review. We pull all of those people in along with the subject matter experts, and we draft that contract and get it signed. So that's anything over $100,000. So we'll often find clients around the university shopping around, trying to get things under $100,000, which is okay if we can get 3 quotes that are representative of that threshold. But most times you'll find we err on the side of caution so that we don't get challenged later. So if we are putting something through at $97,000 and it starts to creep up, so if we do change orders and do change requests on a purchase And we post a lot of things publicly because we have to be accountable for our spend. We're opening up ourselves to dispute. So we're opening up ourselves to challenges from other vendors when we haven't done what we're supposed to do. Next slide, please. P card purchases. A P card or a procurement card. Actually, Nicole, you know what we should add to this is the purchasing versus procurement slide. So that was something we added because we always say if we go to a party, which I think we're allowed to do now again, we never say, oh, I'm part of procurement, because nobody knows what it means. It sounds like a fancy word that's just trying to make me sound smart. I am not smart. That doesn't work for me. But procurement is really just the whole process around buying things. So purchasing is more transactional. Like I need to go and buy socks and I know that they're blue socks and I know they're size 8. That's more transactional. That's buying something. That's purchasing. Procurement really wraps up the whole process of doing the market research, doing all the legwork and the homework, putting it out, getting questions, figuring out the logistics and shipping around something, drafting a contract. It's just a more all-encompassing word to cover the whole process. A procurement card, another big term, is actually a P card or a Visa, a credit card. So we have corporate credit cards dispersed around the university for low dollar, simple purchases. So I think people often think, oh, well, I can put it on a procurement card, and then those nasty buyers and strategic procurement, they're not going to see it. Surprise, we do. We see everything. Those purchases that can go on those cards, it's a very easy way to buy. We actually encourage it. Use a P card when it's a simple, easy transactional type buy, but they are audited as well. They go through an approval process, and then our team audits those purchases too. So even though it is a quicker way to buy, sometimes you do need to buy something online. It all makes sense. We all do it. But just know that those purchases are being watched as well. Informal solicitation of quotations. So anything under $100,000, and perhaps you've been the recipient of a request from Queens. And part of the reason why we're here today is we're hoping that you get more requests from Queens. We're trying to get people to branch out a little bit and not always go to the suppliers that they always use. Carrie has been fantastic. She's created a bank, a spreadsheet of your group of women entrepreneurs so that we can send that around. We will be posting that on our website. We're a little bit backed up right now, and Nicole is working us all way too hard. So we will be posting that on our website though, and pointing people there, along with companies that are representative of other types of groups, other groups of people that deserve a chance as well. So the quoting process, we do have a structured document, but it's still long and a little bit cumbersome. So if somebody's planning on spending about $9,000, they can send that quote out to different suppliers that they know of. We would encourage maybe suppliers that you don't know of, give someone else a chance to work with us. They can send that information out. Someone's cutting the grass right beside my window. They send that information out, get the pricing back, get the information back. And we do encourage going with the lowest price quote that comes back, all other things remaining equal. So if they say, but this person's throwing in more warranty, this person is closer to us, I know they'll be able to provide service really quickly. There's a form our clients, our buyers can buy. They can attach this form saying, I am spending a little bit more, but here's why. And we wouldn't challenge that. We would never challenge that unless it's doesn't make any sense, or unless there's like a conflict of interest box. Unless we can sense something's wrong, we might just question it a little bit more. But we're all about quality. Value equals quality and price, not just price. Departments can select which suppliers are contacted. So if you're sitting there saying, how do I get in with advancement, or how do I get in with hospitality services, contact them. Look on the website, just like we have to do when we're looking for someone. I still feel so new. I'm always looking to find contacts in different departments. Look for them. If you need help, reach out to us and just introduce yourselves. just put your name out there so that they're willing and they have that in the back of their mind next time they go to procure or to obtain some kind of services or some kind of goods that you may be supplying. PO terms and conditions prevail unless a contract is in place. That's just something saying that when we issue a purchase order, our terms and conditions are attached and our expectation is that they will be followed. Nicole, I said I wasn't going to talk too much about this, and here I am. Your turn.
Perfect. Thank you, Shelley. It's all good. We get excited about it. We are not the party animals at the party, right? Like we talk
Never.
Especially when we get together. There is a question. Rita's asked a question in the chat that I will just answer here about can the P card send payments of invoices via email transfer or PayPal? So we're not set up for e-transfer. I know that the financial team is looking at that as an option. They started piloting that for students, reimbursements or payments, that sort of thing. But it's not something that we're able to pay what we would term suppliers currently as, but we can use PayPal. Now, I will tell you that Stephanie, who looks after our credit card program, there's been a lot of fraud with PayPal. So she's been a little bit nervous and kind of watching because some of our credit cards have gotten hit with the PayPal fraud that's happened, but it is an option that we can use as well. So that is an option to pay using credit cards via PayPal. When we say buyers, do you mean departments, individual professors? Who does the term apply to? So yeah, so when Shelley says buyers, or refers to our clients, we're talking about our internal clients, and that could be departments, it could be faculties, it could be school of business, it could be researchers, professors. It's anyone and everyone at the university that can purchase. So we have sort of our buying group in procurement, which is under the strategic sourcing, but essentially anybody at the university is considered a buyer, right? So we have, and in the system that Nikki's going to show you later on, everyone at Queen's that has an active employment has shopper access in the system. So everybody's really considered a buyer. They might buy once in their whole time at Queen's University, or they could buy every week, right? It just depends on what your need is at the university to be involved in this. So anyway, so that's what we mean. So thank you for asking those questions. If you, again, we're trying to be very mindful. We have a lot of terminology in our head and we use a lot of acronyms. So we've tried to explain them, but if we miss anything, don't hesitate to ask us. We want to make sure that we are answering and making this a good presentation that you walk away with some nuggets. But if our lingo gets confusing, you're not going to walk away with nuggets. So please ask us those questions. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide because we've got a whole section on this. So I'm just going to talk about this quickly here. We do have a number of preferred supplier programs for a variety of goods and or services at the university. And so these contracts are in place for a set period of time before they're refreshed. So what it is that it's commodities or services that we see at the university that are highly transactional. They might be high dollar values, but in most cases, they're just very transactional in nature. So comes to mind are like office supplies, furniture, paper, that sort of thing. So trying to make it so that we get in some locked in pricing, some guaranteed delivery dates, that sort of thing. So that's what we do with preferred suppliers. That makes it a little bit easier for our client group to actually purchase, right? In a lot of cases, the thresholds actually vary from what our standard policies are because they've gone to an open procurement of some in some sense. So I'll go into those details a little bit later on. I don't want to spend too much, but we're just sort of talking about the different options for sourcing at the university. Again, Shelley's already mentioned this, multiple quotes are needed in some in the different thresholds. We always encourage lowest price, but again, if it doesn't make sense that there's a better quote that would meet the needs, we make sure to to give options. So they can always purchase using that form that Shelley's already gone over. And again, the department can select which suppliers are contacted from the preferred supplier list. And I can see it on my peripheral that there's some questions that perhaps are coming in. But it looks like, Shelley, you've answered them, so I'm good. Perfect. We're multitasking today, so that's the reason why there's 3 of us. Okay, so I will move on to, we're going to talk about limited tendering. So this is where so in the trade treaties, it's termed as limited tendering. You might also hear it called exception to policy, non-competitive procurement, sole or single sourcing. And so at the university, we have a lot of oversight at this. Because we want to make sure that we're going to market whenever possible. We're giving as many opportunities to a variety of suppliers at any given time. There are times, though, that perhaps there isn't a number of suppliers available for this particular purchase or service. So we actually have oversight on all of these type of exceptions. So we have to vet them and review them to make sure that there's a strong rationale to support the purchase. It could be because there's an emergency. So say the storm that happened on the weekend, there was major flooding in one of our buildings and we had to get it back online and deal with that. That is actually an emergency that would qualify for an exception to the normal policy. And then in the trade treaties, there's a number of approved exceptions. So legal services is one of them. You're not going to go and get perhaps 3 codes for legal services, because what you're doing is you have a specific need and there might be a law firm that is actually the best to represent the university in that particular situation. So again, it's not about getting the lowest price on legal services. It's about getting the best legal firm to represent the university. So there's actually an exception in the trade treaties that allows us to go to a legal firm just to provide service to us. As I've already mentioned, these purchases go through an extra level of approval. So they actually have to be signed by one up at the university. So if a dean has signed the contract, then it would actually have to go to the VP to approve that. The dean cannot approve both the contract and the exception. They're 2 separate issues that need to be handled. And so that way that there's complete, there's a lot of oversight on this. So it's not just people saying, I would like my friend to do the business and I'm going to say it's a sole source situation. It has to go through a lot of rigor in order for that to happen. And I'll just mention too that Queens, because we're a public institution that follows CFTA, we are required to post purchases on a routine basis. Roughly, it's about every quarter we post these on Badingo, which we're going to talk about here in a bit. But we have to post anything that was over $100,000 Canadian before taxes that didn't go out to market. And we have to post those so the supplier community can see that. And frankly, if they feel that they should challenge it to say, hold on, Queens, there's like 5 of us in this space. That's where they do that, right? So anyhow, okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about Rfx Opportunities. And so Shelley mentioned this earlier on too. Some on the call today might say, I'm not sure that I'd ever do business with Queens in this space at that. You'd be surprised. $100,000 in today's market doesn't take long to get to. And especially with what we're seeing with inflation and supply chain challenges and things like that, there's a lot of procurement happening at the university that a year and a half ago wouldn't have even, it would have been well under 100. And now we're seeing that it's over 100 just because of a variety of factors into that. The other thing is too, is that it's also a great opportunity for companies, smaller companies, local companies to actually link up with a larger group. So to do a portion of that RFP that's being put out. So there's lots of opportunities. So I'll talk a little bit more about that, but I didn't want anybody to think, oh, Nicole, skip over this. We don't qualify. You'd be amazed at how many people actually should think about this space. So Shelley's actually talked about this as well, but anything over $100,000 Canadian dollars before taxes must be sourced through an open competitive process, and we term it an RFX. So it's a request for whatever. So typically we do RFPs, which are requests for proposals. We also do RFSQs, which are requests for supplier qualifications. We're getting into doing RFIs, which are requests for information. So it just depends on what the process is, but they always start with an RF, and we just put the X to allow for a multitude of different processes. And so I mentioned Bidingo beforehand. We publicly post on Bidingo. The Ontario University sector, some of us post on Bidingo, some of us post on Mercs. Shelley, is there any? I think that those are the two main ones that the Ontario University sector typically uses. I know that the Limestone District School Board use bids and tenders, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a couple of different platforms out there, but I would say I'm going to say I'm 95% sure that the Ontario public sector either uses Bidingo or Mercs. Those are the two main ones that are public or our post-secondary institutions use. So just to let you know that under the, so this is where like the CFT, or sorry, CETA, the Canadian European Trade Agreement, where it actually has the most stringent of posting. So we're following their process. But in their trade treaty, it says that we're required to post for a minimum of 40 calendar days. But you get certain credits for certain things that you do. So we actually electronically post through Bidingo. We accept electronic Q&A. So we get to take another 5 days off of that. And we accept electronic submissions through Bonfire, which is just highlighted there. And so because of that, we have to post for a minimum of 25 calendar days. That being said, that's the minimum. If it's a complex RFP project, we are very mindful of that, and we want to make sure that suppliers have ample time to do the research and put together a qualified submission. So there are times that we might be out for 2 months, 45 days. Just depends on the project. We want to make sure that we're being fair to the supplier community. We can't let it go on and on and on, but we do also have to make sure that we're being fair with the time that it takes to prepare these submissions. On average, we tell our client group when they actually look to us to run these processes, it's about a minimum 16-week process, right, from start to finish. So from RFX development and specification gathering through to the posting, evaluation, potentially interviews, contracts, that sort of thing. It's at minimum about 16 weeks. Okay. Shelley, you jump in and tell me if I'm missing any questions. I'm trying to kind of watch out of my peripheral, but if I do miss anything, let me know. So, yep. Rfx Opportunities, I'm going to continue on this. We run what we call a negotiated RFP process. So what it means is that it's actually a benefit to both to the university and to the supplier, so that there's an opportunity for us to go back and negotiate. So we always negotiate with the highest scoring proponent, and I'll get into a little bit of detail on what the highest scoring proponent is just after I go through sort of the process. But in every one of our documents, there's a mandatory submission requirement, which is administrative in nature. So we want to make sure that everything that we ask for, you submit it. The odd time there will be a mandatory technical specification that you might have to pass in order for us to open the rest of your bid, but we tend to lean away, to shy away from that. It's mostly administrative in nature. Then a stage 2 is the rated criteria. So we evaluate the written submission that suppliers put forward. There's a possibility of a stage 3 for interview, presentation, or demonstration. It's not always applicable. But it might be something that we do as a part of the evaluation. And then pricing is the last stage. So like Shelley said several times, it's best value that we're going for here, right? So we do not want to be influenced by the pricing. We do not open it until the last step. So we're trying to make sure that the specifications that we've gone out are being met and that we're not influenced by the pricing. Like we're not going, oh, look, we can save ourselves $50,000. But in saving $50,000, we might be giving up a number of things that we need to have. And so that's the reason why we make sure that the specification is met, and then we'll open up pricing. So then based on those different criteria, so essentially the rated criteria, the possibility of a presentation and pricing, if after all those stages are evaluated and the scores are totaled up, it's the highest scoring proponent that we then enter into negotiations with. Our hope is that we do reach a contract with the highest scoring proponent. However, if we cannot within the 30-day time limit that the BPS states, then we will go to the next highest scoring proponent and we will work through that. So there's always opportunities. We always say to suppliers when they come into this process, make sure your pencil is sharpened. And that pencil doesn't mean to be just the pricing, it needs to be everything. So put your best foot forward. And we always say to read the document. We give a lot of information in that document. The point values of how we're scoring are with each of the criteria. So if you see something that's 25 out of 80 points, we're looking for a lot of detail here. I am just going to say here, I will let you know too that every participant in this process, so we work with our client group, so it's normally the evaluation team is comprised of a minimum of 3. We will not go less than 3. We are not evaluators, so procurement runs the process, but we are not evaluators in the process. We leave that to the subject matter experts, which is the clients in this case. But they are required to sign a conflict of interest or a non-disclosure, and a non-disclosure agreement. So everything that's submitted in this process is maintained. We keep it confidential. So we make sure that anything that is submitted here is not shared outside of this group. And again, I'm just going to reiterate too, if your organization is not able to compete in an RFX process just due to the scope of the project, it might be beyond what you're able to do. Don't give up on that. Consider working with another supplier, either as a partner or a subcontractor. So there's lots of opportunities. There might be a portion of it that you can contribute to. And so think about that, not just about the low dollars that we've been talking about, but some of these other bigger contracts, right? There's lots of opportunities. So we just strongly encourage you to consider all things. Okay.
Nicole,
Ellie,
a 2-minute notice that we're going to break in about 2 minutes.
Well, Carrie, do we want to break now because we're kind of just at this sort of?
This might be a good moment for sure.
Perfect.
Okay, folks, we're going to break for 10 minutes. We're going to pause the recording and we're going to give our Asl Interpreter a 10-minute break. I have also just put a note into the chat about an upcoming workshop also that we've scheduled that might be of interest. So we will not be providing, or we won't be discussing during this next 10-minute period to give our Asl Interpreter a break, but you can feel free to use this chat. All right, thanks everyone. We'll see you at 11. We'll start again. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Carrie. Perfect. So Shelley, I'll turn this over to you.
Okay. Social procurement. You can bop right to the next slide, Nicole. So we'll just read this first because it's a really long-winded sentence. Social procurement is a process whereby organizations meet their needs for goods or services while achieving value for money and generating benefits to the organization, the society, and the economy while minimizing damage to the environment. It is about capturing those impacts and seeking to make intentional positive contributions to both the broader economy and the overall vibrancy of the community. So that's a lot. So it really is, it's not to say that social procurement hasn't been on our radar before, but it really, really is flowing to the surface. We'll talk a little bit about what it means on the next slides, but I just wanted to add here that A bit of a disclaimer in that I fully recognize when we go through the next slides, I'm not a person who has experienced some of the challenges or had some of the other experiences that maybe some other women on the call have had here today. So as we go through this, this is one of those places where I would like you to think about what we're saying and think about areas where we may be able to improve. Definitely a work in process for us, but I know I speak with Nikki and Nicole and our entire group in that we're trying to get better here. So when we talk about diverse suppliers and sustainability and Indigenous suppliers, some of the things that fall under this umbrella, we're aware, but we're sitting in seats that maybe aren't the same as other people's seats. So we are working our best and doing our best to try and learn and educate ourselves to be better in this space. So you can switch. So we kind of talk about this in 4 pillars. I think we need, so this is kind of a slide or a picture that we came up with a few years ago. I think it can use a little bit of TLC, a little bit of massaging to make it better. So when we talk about social procurement, right now we're talking about supply chain diversity, which is part of the reason why we're here today, sustainability, truth and reconciliation, and accessibility, or the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act. Those are all big projects in themselves. So many organizations have created groups to focus on all of these different pillars of social procurement. We're not there yet, but we have recognized that we need to pull up our socks and get moving forward in this space. Next slide. So supply chain diversity. We have sat in on a number of different webinars and workshops lately around supply chain diversity and been in touch with different groups, kind of like yourselves here today, different groups that represent different equity deserving groups of people. So we have been working towards that and trying to figure out how do we reach out? Like I was saying before, how do we reach out? Not to say that if you provide a cleaning service, we don't want to just hand you the business. You deserve better than that. You're qualified. If you're qualified, we want to make sure you know about the business. We want to make sure you know about all of those thresholds we were talking about earlier, so that you can kind of get your foot in the door here at Queen's or in another public sector space. We want you to know that there's rules around it and try and bump up the exposure to your business specifically so that our clients, our internal Queen's buyers, aren't just always going to the same company over and over and over again because they do a pretty good job. We want them to give you a chance too. So we're not just handing you the business because you happen to represent an equity deserving group. We want to show you how to do the business because you're qualified to do the business. So Nikki's going to talk a little bit about some functionality we added within our system. And we've had really positive feedback on it, but we did have one supplier reach out who was sitting in a seat much like the seat I'm sitting in today, that kind of misunderstood our intention. And I was like, really? Like our place, we're coming with good intentions. We're looking to have people identify, maybe even be proud of the group they're representing and tell us so that we can steer some business your way. We're definitely not looking for you to tick a box so that maybe people won't go there. I think the misinterpretation around why we're doing what we're doing, and most organizations are doing it today because they should. We're trying to broaden our horizons and allow for everyone to work with us, not trying to pick and choose based on a group that someone might represent. I'm hoping that makes sense. So we sent out a communication. But again, reach out if there's things that we can be saying better. We usually work very closely with our equity group here at Queen's to make sure our wording is appropriate. And oftentimes we get corrected and we're open to that. We're open to learning and growing as we move forward. The space is changing all the time. Even we were calling things EDII. We've changed the acronym because it's better a different way. Next slide, sustainability, this too. So I think we're trying to figure out how to align our team with these different pillars so that we have representation everywhere because we can't always have it within our group. So when I said we reach out to the equity group, they help us with supply chain diversity. Sustainability, we have a sustainability group here too. We just need the time to update what we have. So you'll find Gales Go Green and different sustainability requirements for purchases on our website, but we need to update it and we just need to think it through a little bit more, knowing that, again, when we talk about value, it's not all about price, it's not all about quality in general. It's about the impact something or the footprint something may leave behind, or the types of people we're employing or we're having work with us, and what are their processes behind the scenes. So maybe a company that we're doing business with doesn't identify as an equity, as a diverse supplier because they're not 51% owned and operated by someone representing an equity deserving group, but maybe they have fantastic processes whereby they also have policies in place for the hiring they do, or maybe the people they buy from a little further down the supply chain, they have policies around that in the sustainability field. So there's so much to it. We just need to figure out what our goals are and how to measure them, which Nikki is helping us with in the system side of things. And just always looking to improve. Same thing with truth and reconciliation. Our Indigenous supplier base, we've been part of Queens. So Queens is really doing a lot of work in this space, which is fantastic. They have been kind enough to loop procurement in too. So when they're buying things, again, even though there is an exception as part of the trade treaties, there is an exception in place which allows us to buy from suppliers that represent Indigenous businesses without going through all of the hoops that you would normally try to go to. Again, we're not just handing business there, we're making sure those groups know about the work that can be done with Queens. Every one of these can be a pillar unto itself, though. AODA, accessibility, back when I was with the city, I think this was highlighted and we did some really exceptional training around accessibility. And again, it's the same thing, maybe not necessarily if we're buying a piece of equipment, can our researchers think, well, what does that have to do with accessibility? Everything has to do with accessibility. And maybe it's something you can think of quite easily if it's something to do with the software that's being used and what's behind the scenes there. Or maybe can a person in a wheelchair use the equipment? There's all of that, things that might be front facing, but then behind the scenes, we're looking for suppliers to tell us about their policies and practices within their own organization. So this was really highlighted, and we actually in our RFP documents add scoring for this right now to bring it to the surface. It isn't a ton of points, but anytime a supplier sees points, it's like, okay, now I have to do something with that criteria, but we have them do our Queens training if they have nothing in place. If they don't submit anything and they get 0 points in this area, and we decide they are the top scoring proponent and we're going to enter into an agreement with them, we have them do the training before we sign off, just so we can assure ourselves that they know something about this cause, something about the importance of this. And we get a lot of feedback there around like, well, that was great training. Thank you for giving that to us. We're starting to kind of blend this into a bigger umbrella now to include social procurement as a whole. Sometimes maybe pull sustainability out, but even Indigenous and then the EDIAA, like if we can pull all of that together into a bigger umbrella while still focusing on the bits and pieces that are important to that particular project, it may be a better way to go so that it isn't really always all about accessibility, but accessibility as part of a bigger, diverse supply chain. So we're trying to kind of figure that out too. And if you have any ideas there, feel free. Accessibility was the next one. And I think that's really all I have there. I guess if I can just leave it with you that we know it's important. We know we have to do better here and we're working on it, but please reach out if there's something, or if you are part of another organization and you want us to do some portion of this presentation for that group, let us know. Or if there's something that you really didn't understand today, maybe you want us to focus on small dollar purchases or large dollar purchases where you can be part of that. Let us know that too. Just let us know what your needs are so that we can really cater our presentations.
Perfect. Thanks, Shelley. And actually, just to on Shelley's point there, from this group, I've been contacted. I think that some of you have actually reached out to other contacts. So a couple of our peer universities have said, hold on, I hear you're doing this presentation. Can we hear about this presentation? So a bit of word of mouth. So that's not just this presentation, but just in general. If there are groups that we've had a couple of groups too that have reached out to us because of different touch points on this. Again, we're here to learn. We're here to improve this. So please provide us with any information. This is where you can teach us. We're teaching you on public procurement here. Please teach us anything that you have that you can share with us. I meant to say when we came back from the break, I took a quick look at all the different attendees here in the different businesses. It's really exciting to see the different businesses. And I'd strongly encourage you, as I was going through, I was actually like, oh, that department, this would be a good department. So there's a number of departments. I see some wellness type of suppliers here, athletics, HR, like I would reach out to them because they have a lot of programs that they do that they don't actually do in-house, that they go to getting an external provider. So you might want to reach out to some of those individuals. I see some cleaning companies. We actually hire quite a few different cleaning companies for a variety of off-campus properties that we have leased, that we go and actually hire a custodial company. So there's some, I just thought I'd mention that I was looking through this, and there's some, like, I was getting excited about seeing the various businesses that I think there's some various opportunities that like, as I said at the beginning of this presentation, we purchase soup to nuts, and that includes services and everything else. So I think that there's a lot of there's other departments that I always think of Queen's University as we're a university, but almost each one of our departments is like its own little separate business. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. So I would encourage everyone to reach out. I think there's lots of opportunities for us to consider some business with a number of you. Okay, I am going to go into preferred supplier status. So I touched on this briefly a few slides back. But essentially, I'm just going to go into this a bit more. So a preferred supplier at Queen's is a vendor who has been qualified through an open procurement competition, either through Queen's, we run our own. We also access through the Ontario Education Collaborative Marketplace, which is called OECM. They run a number of contracts that we're able to access. The Ministry of Government and Consumer Services, MGCS, also has contracts that are open to us to access. We also have a group, which is the Ontario University's Professional Purchasing Management Association, which is called UPMA. When I told you before that we love our acronyms, this is proof right here that we love our acronyms, but UPMA is another group. And I think that there's a number of you that actually probably have some touch points at other Ontario universities. So as a purchasing group, we're actually very collaborative and we work very closely together. We meet once a month, the directors and associate directors. So it's a very active group and we like to work together. So that's another opportunity. There's also the Canadian Association of University Business Officers, CABO. So that's pretty much the, coast to coast contracts that we look at, like mostly related to travel. So like rental vehicles and things like that will access those contracts. Kinetics GPO, they're fairly new in the space. They would be much like the like OECM. But they're another opportunity. And then there's a number of collaborative contracts that, as long as Queen's is named or the post-secondary institutions of Ontario is named, we can access that. So there's ways that we can do business that's not just us running open procurement processes. Okay. So what is the difference between a preferred supplier and a vendor of record? Probably you've heard this terminology, both of these terms used. At Queen's, we use them interchangeably. So when you go on our website, you'll see preferred suppliers, but then we'll also reference them as vendor of record. So essentially, they have gone through an open procurement process. It's only strategic procurement that can run those processes, but essentially they are considered the preferred or the vendor of record for a set period of time to provide goods and services in that space. That being said, there are some things that we try and direct most of the business to our preferred suppliers in whatever it is that they're supplying. There are some niche markets though that we have to consider. So I would say that a good portion of the business goes to the preferred suppliers for that particular commodity or service. But there could be the odd time, and I'm just thinking because I'm very close to this, the recruitment services ones, where if we're going out to recruit in a very niche market or for a very unique position at the university, our preferred supplier roster might not be able to actually be successful in that space. So we might have to consider going outside of those contracts. A collaborative contract. So I kind of addressed that with the various different organizations that we can grab their contracts and use them. So they've actually gone through an open procurement process, and the current Ontario government that is in place, at least until June 2nd, is actually a big proponent of encouraging public institutions to use collaborative contracts. So essentially it's like where two or more organizations use their total purchasing power to obtain more buying leverage, right? And there's benefits to both the supplier and the buying organization. So the suppliers are able to sell to a variety of levels in government and the extended broader public sector group. And for buyers, we can reduce the administrative and legal costs. So as Shelley was joking earlier on, a wink, wink, we are really busy, and I am asking a lot of the team. It's the nature of the business. This is when we start to ramp up. So even though we get to take summer vacation, the summer is a very busy time for us in procurement because a lot of the faculty are no longer teaching and they can focus on their research. So we're actually quite busy. It takes a lot of resources to run a lot of these processes. So when we can actually leverage one of these collaborative contracts, it actually reduces our administrative costs and resources, right? So it is a benefit to us. And plus it really supports the provincial government's initiative of doing more of this collaborative buying. Again, there's also the volume sales for the buying organization. So larger volumes of sales to a variety of organizations helps to reduce costs to the supplier, and also keeps costs low for us. The selling organization also would see future sales commitments as well. And so we do use these collaborators wherever they make sense. Right now, they make sense in like paper, multifunction devices, that sort of thing. We are looking, now that we have our business analysts, we're going to look at more of sort of the high transactional spend on campus and perhaps introduce some more. But again, you might actually be able to link up on one of these ones. So I'd encourage you to look at these ones too as well. Okay, so I've already touched on this, but why do we use collaboratives? Again, provincial government that we have strongly recommends this. And I'll just be open to like the rental vehicle contract that we have. We could never get remotely close to having the benefits of that contract if we went out ourselves based on our travel spend. But because we use the Cabo one, which is like a coast to coast, all Canadian universities can access that. That's a big carrot to provide to a supplier to say, look, any one of these Canadian universities can access this contract. They see huge business across Canada, right? So for us, that makes sense. It doesn't make sense for us to run our own. So we do kind of put that lens on when we're looking at collaborative contracts. We hear this question a lot, or hear this statement a lot from a number of suppliers that have worked on campus for a number of years. They say, we've been doing business for Queens for years, and I just assumed my company was a preferred supplier, especially since I'm a registered supplier in Acquire. Why doesn't Queens Procurement acknowledge this status? Briefly mentioned this previously. Just because you're awarded a specific contract does not automatically mean that the supplier has a preferred supplier status. And in the public sector space, preferred supplier has a very defined meaning. In the private sector, there's a lot more flexibility when it comes to preferred suppliers. In our space, there is not. So for departments at Queen's, the process that they run in order to buy is considered an invitational procurement process, whereby they select the supplier that they're going to go and get the quotes from. And this is not considered an open formal process, which is open to any and all suppliers. They've only gone to the number of suppliers that they're required to get quotes from. They haven't opened that opportunity to everyone. And so, as I mentioned too, Strategic Procurement Services is the only group that can complete this process to qualify suppliers, because it is an open process. And so I think I already mentioned this too, that the university is always looking at additional programs that we can offer. So again, encourage you to look at that. There may be some opportunities there as well for you. So we're trying to make sure that this group knows every potential opportunity that we can offer to you to consider doing business with you. Okay. So I think I'm okay on questions. Shelley, I'm looking at you because I've got you up on my screen. If I need to answer any questions, just let me know. I warned everyone too that you'd hear my voice quite a bit, so sorry about that. Okay, so I'm going to go into payment terms. I'm going to put a bit of a disclaimer on this. I'm going to be sharing what our post-it payment terms are as a university. But again, we want to make sure that we are not disadvantaging or providing any hardship to a small business. So the thing is that these are always to be spoken about. We post these because we're posting these essentially because there are larger corporations that can do better on payment terms and such. And under the current provincial government too, there's a strong mandate for public sector organizations to be better custodians of public funding. And for us in procurement, one of the ways that we can do that is through payment terms. But again, I want to start by saying that we do not subject small businesses to these type of payment terms. We're not trying to disadvantage or have you bankroll the university. So again, if you ever have any concerns about this, please reach out to us, specifically me or Nikki. But I just want to start by saying that because I don't want everybody to gasp and go, oh, I can't do business with Queens because their payment terms are crazy. Again, it's a conversation. So here we go. So Visa Payable Automation is, this is considered an electronic accounts payable method. I always explain it that it's like the commercial e-transfer. But what it does is it uses a merchant account. So if you accept credit card payments, you typically have a merchant account unless you're set up through PayPal or such. So anyhow, Visa Payables Automation for us is a very efficient way of paying suppliers. And the reason why it's efficient and very safe. And especially with the pandemic, there's been a lot more fraud that's happened in this space. So we strongly encourage suppliers to consider this. Again, disclaimer on this one, it doesn't always work for small businesses, right? So again, there's a cost to doing this. So again, we're not asking small businesses to consider this. If you're set up for this and would like to, like if you're set up with a merchant account and would like to consider this, we're absolutely happy to talk to you more about how to go about doing this. But again, this is for big companies, right? That have lots of transactions on credit card and things like that, where they would, and in this case, I don't have to store any of their sensitive banking information in my system because it's like the commercial e-transfer. So as soon as I run PayCycle, they get an email to go pick up their payment and deposit in their account. So the beauty part is that I don't have to put down their routing number for their bank, their bank account number or anything. It's completely secure. Again, if you'd like to talk about that more, Diane Beijing, who I mentioned earlier in the presentation, she's our accounts payable lead. She's the main contact on this one. But again, we're very conscious of the fact that this doesn't work necessarily for small businesses. For electronic funds transfer, EFT, we do post net 60 days. Again, for smaller businesses, we will consider a much better payment term. Again, please talk to us. ACH is really a US term, so I won't go into much detail. It's just the US version of EFT. We also do wire and bank drafts. We typically reserve those for international suppliers because they are very manual and they are very risky. So we do tend to do those for international suppliers. And again, check is an option. It's not ideal, and especially with the pandemic, it has presented a lot of challenges, especially when we first shuttered the doors in March of 2020. It was a little bit hard to get checks out the door. So if anything, we'd strongly encourage you to do EFT. Talk to us about the payment term though. And again, if my director's good, I'm just joking. My director loves his payment terms, but we are very conscious of small businesses and we do not want to disadvantage them. Okay. This is just a slide that we kind of talk about them, but EFT, as we all know, is just where we take money from our bank account and deposit it into your bank account. A bank draft and wire are very similar in nature, but essentially it's a document that draws down on bank funds. A wire is bank to bank transfer. There is fees with the wires for sure. Check is always an option, as we all know what the check is, although my 15-year-old son received a check and didn't know what to do with it. So we can tell that that generation is phasing out checks. It's checks too can be delayed because of the postal system too, right? So that's the reason why we strongly encourage EFT at least. And then I've already talked about BPA. Okay, good news. It's not me talking anymore. I'm going to turn it over to Nikki.
Okay, thanks, Nicole. So I'm going to talk about our supplier registration process and the portal that's connected to it. So we'll get into talking about that. So changing gears just a little bit here. Nicole, could you flip to the next slide, please? Thank you. So we call the module for this supplier management, and it is part of our e-procurement system, our platform that we utilize here at Queen's, which is branded Acquire. We named it Acquire. It's connected to the supplier portal, so that's where suppliers can safely and securely and efficiently provide us with their business information and then manage that information as it may change down the line as well. So you're not relying on passing the information to us via a phone call or an email. If you register in this portal, you can maintain the information yourself, which is great for us. It cuts down on, transfer of data being misinterpreted or typos, whatever it may be. Also protecting your security and your safety around your data as well, if you register in the portal. So you are required to register yourself within this portal. That's kind of the main key of this. That's what we like to see. And this portal is powered by a company called Jagger, and they're based out of the United States. They power the portal and our Acquire system as a whole. So they are an international source to pay supplier offering cloud-based e-procurement, invoicing, supplier management platforms, among many other modules as well. Those are just the three that we utilize here at Queen's: the e-procurement, the invoicing, and the supplier management platforms. Next slide, please, Nicole. So what is the supplier registration portal? So in order for you to register in this portal, you do have to receive an email invitation from Queen's. We don't post a public link to the portal on our website because we want to make sure that suppliers that are registering in this portal are ones that we're actually doing business with. So you must be currently doing business with Queen's or expected to start doing business with Queen's. If you're new to Queen's University, you haven't done business with us before, whatever department you're working with, they will be the ones to initiate the registration request via our Acquire system. So they'll be the ones to kick that off. We will then send you a registration invitation from that initial request. If you are an existing supplier in our database, so we've procured from you before, we've paid you in some capacity before for goods or services, you haven't registered yet though, because we did just launch this module in 2018. So if you've been doing business with us for a while, you've never seen this registration portal before, but you think it's something that would benefit you to register in, and that's our initiative to get all of our active suppliers registered in this portal, you can reach out to us and ask to be sent a registration invitation, and we will provide that to you if we continuously do business with you. So we'll provide some contact information in a couple of slides about where you can reach out to us for that, and we can work with you to get that going. The link to create your supplier portal account will be included in that initial registration email that we send to you. And the contact that we send that invitation to has to be the one to complete the registration. So if we've sent the invitation to the wrong contact at your business, just let us know and we can reroute it to the proper contact after all, because sometimes we don't get that right at the initial onset. So just let us know if that's the case and we can reroute that registration invitation. So what are some benefits to you to actually register in this portal? So I talked about a couple of them already. Your information is encrypted. So there's only a few of us at Queen's that actually have access to your sensitive business information once you provide it to us in this portal. And I want to stress that because I know that, you know, fraud and that kind of thing, just privacy in general around your business information is really important. So I want to make sure that you know there's only a few of us at Queen's that have access to your sensitive information once you provide it to us through this portal. You can receive purchase orders through this portal as well. So if we are going to be sending you POs, you can access those sales orders right in this portal. And then you can invoice against those sales orders right in this portal as well. So it's really great for you to just hop into this portal, see all the sales orders that we've provided to you, and then you can just easily invoice against them and see the payment status on them as well. So before using this portal, suppliers would have to maybe call us if they weren't sure when they were going to get paid, see where the invoice is and the status, the process of it. With this portal, you can log in and see those PO invoice statuses and find out when you're going to get paid. It's a lot better for that in terms of visibility. I mentioned this before as well, less room for error if you're using the portal. You're not having to transfer your business information to a department and then they have to transfer it to us. You know, it's you directly logging into a portal, a secure portal, and providing your business information to us. So it's really great in that sense. You have direct ownership over your information. Okay, so this is what the portal login page looks like. Apologies for that blurry image that you see on your screen there. This is, so it's branded the Acquire. It's got the Acquire logo there and also Queen's University. So you know that's the portal page you're logging into. On this page, we include some registration FAQs. So just some high-level questions that suppliers tend to ask us about this portal and registering in it. So we linked those right there for you. And then we've also put together, if you want some additional reading, you know, some nighttime before bed reading, we have about a 30+ page document that you can actually go through. And that's full end-to-end of how you register in the portal, and some additional information is included in there as well. You can reach out to us if you have further questions, but we do want to offer that guide to you just in case you like to learn on your own or you want to look into these things on your own time as well. And that's linked here also. So this is just a screenshot of what the registration profile looks like as an example. So menu folders along the left-hand side, this is the registration part of the portal. And you'll see that some of them are marked gray, some of them are marked green. So if it's marked gray, that means you do have to provide information into that folder, and the system needs to see that it's all complete in that section before you can submit your registration to us. There's also some folders that are marked green to start, and that's because they're considered optional folders. This slide is a little out of date because we've done some updates to the portal recently, but for the most part, this is what you're going to see when you come in to initially register or maintain your registration moving forward. Okay, so just to dive into those a little bit further, some examples of the menu folders. So we have one called Company Overview, and this is where we're going to ask for things like your legal structure, your tax status, whether you offer goods or services or both. We also have one for payment information. So Nicole talked about our standard payment terms and methods in a couple slides before, but we actually list them here for you as well, just so you have a refresher when you come in here and you're going to provide us with your preferred payment method. We want to make sure that you have a reference to our terms that go with those as well. But we do acknowledge, and Nicole mentioned this also, that we have exceptions to terms based on business structure. So if you are one of those suppliers that you think your business structure should potentially have an exception to the payment term that we post, we want to have a conversation with you about it. So please feel free to reach out to us about that. And then preferred remittance method, obviously that goes with the terms, but here you can choose things like EFT. Nicole mentioned the payment methods as well, EFT, ACH, wire, all those preferred payment methods as well can be provided here. And again, only a few of us on the team have access to this information, so please feel comfortable to provide it within this portal. There's only a couple of us that have access to view this information. But actually, before we go to that one, Nicole, we can stay here, but I just wanted to mention another menu folder that we have enhanced recently, and Shelley talked about this a little bit before, but the diversity menu folder within this registration profile. So we've enhanced that, improved that as of recently, and now we have this as a required section for suppliers to complete. Essentially, what we're asking here is for suppliers to identify if they are 51% owned by equity deserving groups or members of the business. So the reason for that is so that we can kind of add a classification to your supplier profile if you do identify as such, and that's visible to our clients. So if they're going through their procurement activities in the system in Acquire, they can see if your business has identified as equity deserving. We do have this information kind of locked down as well. Like, we're not asking for you to go into great detail about that, but we do just want to know if there is 51% equity deserving as part of your business. And you can multi-select several different types of options here, selections for equity deserving. So we provide a list and you can select 2, 3, 1 of the options. It's whatever is specific to your situation. This is also the place where you can say if you have gone through the AODA training, and you can upload your certification here as well. So that's new. We don't have a slide deck for that just yet. Sorry about that, but that is something that you would see if you're going into the portal. You'll see that there. Anything else, Shelley or Nicole, you want to add for that?
No, just maybe Nikki, thanks for bringing it up, and our apologies again for not having the slide on it so they could actually see it. But the feedback from the Queens community has been extremely positive. We are consistently contacted by various departments on, I'd like to work with a supplier. I want to work with an Indigenous supplier. We're looking at, but I don't know who to go to. This is going to help facilitate getting business out to specific suppliers that our community is looking for. So again, this is a work in progress, but the feedback I just want to communicate from the Queens community was overwhelmingly positive. And we worked with the equity office and to make sure that we put this process in properly. So again, work in progress. There are things that if you pop in there and you see some things where the list that we put together is based on the list that we provide. Actually, Carrie provided us with some input on this too. So we appreciate Carrie's help on this as well. But again, it's a work in progress. Nothing that we do in this system do we ever think is perfect. We think it's pretty good, but we don't ever think it's perfect or that it can't be changed or improved upon. So again, if you're in there and you see something on the equity piece, please reach out to Nikki and just say, you might want to consider this as well.
Absolutely, definitely welcome those suggestions at any time. We'll just make a note on that. Our current classification code we've assigned to this is EDII, but we will be looking into changing that as per recommendations from our teams at Queens to I-EDIAA. So it's going to be a constantly changing, evolving process and system and platform. So we welcome suggestions at any time. So some other things you can do in the portal, you can review your purchase orders as we mentioned. So any POs that we send through to you, you can create invoices for those purchase orders. You can update your portal user information. So if you want a couple folks from your business in here managing portal activities, you can add them in. It doesn't have to be one person from your business. You can obviously update your business information as you go. So maybe your diversity information changes as well. You've provided something initially and that changes down the line. Come in here and maintain that information as well. Great point, Shelley. There's also an other field for the diversity classifications. So if you want to identify that you are equity deserving, but you don't want to get too granular with that, you can say other, and you can choose to put in don't want to answer or whatever your other language might be. So you can add that all into the diversity section as well. Also, if you have other clients just besides Queens that are using the Jagger platform and you register with them through the Jagger platform as well, you can flip between the portals quite easily with that other client. And you can also run reports on what your activity is like in the portal as well. So lots of different functions you can do within this portal. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's just talk about the Independent Contractor Questionnaire. Acronym is ICQ. I think Nicole mentioned earlier, we love acronyms here at Queens. So the acronym for this one is called the ICQ. And this might actually translate to quite a few of you on this call. So it's a questionnaire used to determine if an independent contractor should be paid as such or via Queens payroll. So essentially the purpose of this questionnaire is to provide standards and guidance to determine if a service provider qualifies as an independent contractor, safeguard the university and its service providers from potential liability related to incorrect classification, and to outline the process to engage a service provider once their status is determined. So a service provider may be an employee of the university, that is entirely possible, and may be considered an independent contractor when sufficient evidence is provided through the ICQ. It demonstrates a separation between the services provided to the university through their employment relationship, and then the services under consideration as an independent contractor. So this form should be completed in conjunction with the department that the service provider is working with whenever there is a goods or service engagement. And you can work through that form with the department. It should be done prior to the procurement or the payment happening. So it should be done from the get-go of your engagement with the department. And it's to be uploaded to your registration profile. So if you're going through that registration process in the Acquire portal, you can upload a copy of that questionnaire there. I want to mention that this form is owned by our payroll services department. Procurement does not own this form. We didn't put it together or build it. But we are working with them for places that suppliers can upload this form or provide this form to Queens in the supplier registration portal. So if you have specific questions about this form, our team might not be the one to provide the answers to you, but I'll pop some information about contact information for that into the chat. Also, you can ask the department you're working with for information on that as well. They can get you to the right folks to answer those questions. Okay, so here's just some contact information for us. So registration and portal support, essentially, we have a couple different email addresses that we've included here. This first one is aq.supplier@queensu.ca. And this is where you can reach out if you have requests for a portal registration invitation. If you're currently doing business with Queens, you haven't registered yet in the portal, give us a shout there and we can set that up for you. If you're going through the portal and you need registration support, maybe login issues or just profile completion assistance, reach out to us for that here as well. I want to also mention that we might not be able to help you with all of your portal support requirements. There are some things like password resets, etc., that we can't facilitate support for. In that case, in those cases, we'll direct you to Jagger Supplier Support and they'll be able to help you out there. The other one I want to mention here, I think Nicole might speak to this a little bit, is about supplier vaccinations, attestations for that related to COVID-19 vaccination. So we do have an email address set up for that, which is aq.supplier.vaccination@queensu.ca. And essentially, from September through May, I believe, May 1st, it was a requirement in the portal for suppliers to provide an attestation to a vaccination if they're planning to be in-person campus activities happening throughout that time frame. So we set up an email address to support suppliers if they had inquiries around that. And there's also a section for that in the portal as well. Nicole, do you want to speak to that a bit now, though?
Yeah, so I'll just mention that we actually had, it was a part of this presentation, but as Nikki mentioned, as of May 1st, it was no longer a requirement for mandatory vaccination to show proof of it to be on campus. Although, as we've all learned during this whole pandemic situation, things change quite quickly, very rapidly. So we are keeping our processes live in the sense of having this email still active. The requirement has been no longer made mandatory in the system, but we tread lightly, because as soon as we think, oh, this is temporary, or we're just going to do this for a bit of time, or it's no longer required, all of a sudden it pops back up. So we want to be, we've learned a lot through this. So at this time, as Nikki said, the requirement is no longer there, but we've just left the email active in case there is still inquiries to come in or questions about it. But the requirement is no longer mandatory.
Yeah. Thank you.
No problem. Okay. Shelley, good news, everyone. We're almost done.
This is the last slide before our contact information. We are so long-winded. It's pretty funny.
Well, we don't get invited to parties because we're long-winded and we talk procurement and we have 30+ page documents that we find light reading.
So employee discounts. If you navigate to the strategic procurement site within the Queen's website, you will see a tab for employee discounts. So you will find that there are some opportunities that are just open to the public that have discount codes. But more importantly, this is one more place where you might find you get a little bit of exposure for your business. There are over, I can't remember the number, 9,000 staff and faculty at Queen's. So you have the ability to put your business on this page if you're able to offer a little bit of a discount. So when I was scrolling through the people that are on the line, I saw Bread by Elise. That's someone I follow on Facebook, dying to try that bread. Maybe you can offer like a buy one, get one 25% off kind of thing. That will just get your name on the website so that if people are flashing through, and this is one of our most commonly hit tabs on the site. A lot of it is around cell phones, but just people looking for different deals. We get a lot of exposure on this site. So if there is something, whether it be big or small, that you can offer to the Queen's community, staff and faculty, let us know. We can pop your logo and your information here. If you choose to, you can have employees. We all carry ID cards, so you can have us give you our employee number or show you our card before you are able to offer anything to us, but it might just get some feet in the door. So it might get us out there looking at your business, and if we like it, we're coming back. So just one more place there to offer you a little bit of exposure.
Really,
and that's it.
Add to that. I'm just going to add one thing. We didn't touch on this much, but about local, because I know that there's a lot of Kingston and the surrounding area businesses on here. So currently under the current trade treaties, we cannot specify local in any of our open procurement opportunities, right? Invitational, again, the departments get to go, and it might be important for it to be somebody close, like a supplier to be close, but in our open procurement processes, we cannot specify local. Now, again, the current provincial government introduced legislation, I believe at the end of February, that got royal ascension at the beginning of March, introducing some information around local. That's still evolving because it's actually in direct conflict with the trade treaty. So our external procurement lawyer is keeping us apprised of the situation, but there might be some movement on providing a bit of a local, being able to incorporate a local presence into this. But This is an opportunity. We know it's not always possible, but employee discounts, like to Shelley's point, we have over 9,000 employees. We all have a photo ID employee card. It's a way that we can get local businesses out to our community too, right? So again, it's just an opportunity. If it's something that you want to consider, again, by no means are we forcing anybody to do this, but it's a great way where we can throw out some of our local businesses as well. And for instance, too, sometimes if departments go on and see, oh, I use this as an employee discount, and then, oh, now I need them to do something for the department, it's under $10,000, I'm just going to go to them. It's kind of a bit of advertising for you as well. So just something to consider that you might be interested in. Okay.
So I'll just talk about our information sources and contacts. So we do have quite a bit of information on our website. Most of what we've talked about today is actually on our website, our public website. We've linked to it a couple times in the chat, but please feel free to check that out more in depth after this call. We send out correspondence to all of our suppliers that are active in our database whenever something important is coming up, something we want you to know about. So if you're registered, that's a really good way for us to make sure we have your up-to-date email account on our files, so we can send you important information via that listserv. And then if you want to get in touch with our team, some of these email addresses here are how you can do so. They're all shared mailboxes. So there's several individuals from our team on each one of them. So you're going to get a great response if you reach out to these email accounts. So we have an accounts payable one. If you have any questions about remittances that we're paying to you, you can reach out to them there. The suppliers one, so acquire suppliers, aq.supplier@queensu.ca. The vaccination attestation one. We do have one for employee discounts as well. Our sourcing team, which Shelley is a part of. So that's buying@queensu.ca. And then the VPA@queensu.ca, which is where Diane Beijing, who Nicole mentioned is our guru on VPA. You can reach out there and you can get some information about that program through that email account as well. And then this is just a snapshot of our website. So www.queensu.ca/procurement/procurement. And there's lots of tabs here with lots of different information. We have one specifically called for suppliers. So there's good information within that tab. If you wanted to go there, we've put up some FAQs of, common questions that suppliers ask us with some feedback around those as well. So please check that out. We'd love for you to go there and check out that information.
Excellent.
We're at the Q&A.
Thank you to our Asl interpreter, who has now also reached her limit for this hour. We want to give her a rest. And to the point, I'm going to stop record. I want to, we'll continue for a couple more minutes, perhaps with Q&A. But for the purposes of this, I want to thank you so much for your participation today and this excellent information. Thank you so much.